All right, so welcome to the vlog. Yesterday I kind of, ended it in the morning. I never picked up the camera again. That's my bad, but just wasn't the priority, unfortunately. However, I have a fucking fantastic vlog for you guys today. So today what we're doing, I know it's gonna be backwards for you guys, but we have a to-do list. I've already been, working for about 3 hours now. Went to the gym this morning. Essentially, today is going to be getting together the marketing playbook. I want to make a Fluxently marketing playbook, just actionable steps to take every single day to basically market and then eventually be able to sell this. What that kind of includes is kind of creating this content, this initial content for this first version that I'm about to launch, or I've already kind of launched. And essentially what this is going to entail is a visual breakdown where I have it actually right behind me right here. So I'm going to walk through it. Visual breakdown is going to be the first thing. Then we're going to go through the end-to-end systems. We're going to do the driving time block, how that works, the brain, all three parts of the brain, and then the data storage into the make.com integration, which I think I'm going to make one. The retail AI agent, we're going to dive into it. I think that the retail AI agent is the biggest struggle right now. Like, I think it's the worst part of the entire system, which isn't necessarily the best thing, considering that's what the people are talking to. They don't see anything else. So they have no idea if anything else in the back end goes wrong. They only know if something goes wrong on the phone call, because that's what they're actually listening to. So that's one thing we're gonna have to really dive into. I do have that on the things to do today, is kind of get like 3 or 4 scripts together, and maybe even potentially kind of like map those things out or start mapping those things out. So we kind of have a base to go by. I think one problem is that I'm kind of like leaning on this client to like tell me what to do. And she doesn't really know, because this is her first time running an HVAC company as well. So it's kind of like, I'm trying to like take her advice, but when I took her advice for the voice agent, it's not really where I want it to be. And I think I was on the right path when I made my plumbing demo, really taking control of the conversation, getting them off of price, and mentioning price even after you've already kind of like booked in, or mentioned the check availability, like, hey, it's going to be this much, it's cool if I book it in. And they're like, yeah, because they've already gone through those steps, they're ready to just book. Anyways, so real quick though, what we got today, a couple things I've already done. I went through all the end-to-end systems and made notes, so I can kind of like talk through it and everything. Those are the more complex systems that I really want to talk through. The system visual map, I already just built it. It's pretty dope, actually. I like it a lot. You guys will see that. Basically, today's vlog is going to be all these videos, hopefully, combined for you guys. So you're going to get all the videos immediately in one video. It's going to show you everything that I've done. And on the main channel, it's going to be segmented. It's going to be segmented into parts, and I'm going to kind of schedule that out for the next couple of weeks. So you guys are going to be able to get the entire system right now. You'll be able to see everything that I've done. So that's another thing I've done. I put my job experience on LinkedIn, all my past jobs and stuff like that, made the visual map, made the system notes. Other things that I want to get done today are craft my offers. So basically I want to have a pilot offer for the next 2 to 3 clients to get paid, but paid at a significantly lower rate until I deliver results, gather case studies, gather testimony, just like how I'm doing now. But then also crafting 2 offers for customers, 2 brick and mortar locations. So it's businesses that rely on inbound calls, but the customers come to them. So that's like hair salons, barbers, restaurants, places where the customer is calling and saying, hey, I need to book an appointment to come out there and see you guys, right? The other offer is service to consumer. So that's going to be like, hey, I get an inbound call. Where are you at? Okay, I can be there at this time. So that's, car detailing, that is, HVAC, plumbing, all those where the person has to go out to you. That is a service to consumer, is kind of the way I'm describing it. So we have service to consumer and we have consumer to service. And then both of those business types all the business types that I'm targeting are relying on inbound calls, capturing inbound calls for jobs, right? So, sorry, I know I just threw a lot. So then going along with that, after I craft the offers, I'm hoping that when I describe this system, I can kind of like take the transcript from here and throw that into ChatGPT and have it kind of like thoroughly understand what the fuck I like made, like what the fuck I'm trying to do. and then hopefully be able to really craft an offer based off of that. Even though that the offer is not going to be anything AI related, but I just want ChatGPT to genuinely have a concept, like a grasp of what I'm trying to do, so that when I do market research on other competitors, it can actually compare to what I have to the people of what they have. You know what I mean? So then that going along with that, after the offers, the Fluxently marketing playbook, essentially just what the fuck do I need to be doing for the next, I mean, you guys can see my list, my checklist right there. The next, I think, 13 weeks. So we got a long time. So I want to have a playbook. You know, what am I trying to hit? What goals am I trying to do? What milestones am I trying to hit? When I hit those milestones, what am I doing? For instance, I don't want to start milking the LinkedIn until I have at least like 100 to 150 connections, because I only have 18 right now. It's rising, and it's going to go, I feel like it's going to be a lot more exponential, especially with posting things like this, not just, you know, the bullshit that I've been posting. I mean, not to say it's bullshit, but it's not really tailored like how this is. Then I want to do, so after the, you know, that and everything, like I said before, the HVAC inbound scripts, I want to make, you know, 4 to 5 maybe. I don't think that they're going to vary too much. I honestly think that they're going to be relatively simple and straightforward. I think I'm probably going to get 2, and they're going to be really good, and I think that they'll be fine. But we're going to have to test a couple different things. So I think, you know, kind of getting 5 and then being able to like kind of be like, okay, which ones do I really want to use will be useful. Like I said, YouTube walkthrough and breakdown videos, which basically tie into what I just told you guys, what's going to be in this video. And then basically off of that, you know, I'm going to be chopping up those videos, making different posts, and basically just hopefully scheduling out LinkedIn posts for the next like 2 weeks. Like that's kind of the goal. It's just all information, like like building my authority, building the fact that I'm an expert in the space, and scheduling that for the next 2 weeks, which hopefully buys me time for the next 2 weeks to kind of start getting a couple calls in, book a couple people in, and doing all that and letting the system run. So that's what that, you know, that's kind of the mindset with that. And then another thing I want to do today is just kind of play a little bit of house and clean up the computer a little bit. Got a lot of files on there, a lot of JSON files, a lot of just random shit. And I just really want to clean that up because it's getting a little much. So I want to go through all that, clean it up, you know, make sure it's organized. I want to organize everything. And that's a little bit, and like the you know, maybe towards the end of the day. I mean, what's the point of doing all this shit and then fucking it all up again? But yeah, that's essentially what the goals today, boys. Like I said, I'm hoping to put, this is probably gonna be like a fucking 50-minute long video. I'm hoping to put everything in here for you guys immediately, because, you know, I've been slacking, and I know that I've been saying, oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna put it all in there, I'm gonna break it down today, I'm breaking it down today, and it's just been back to the drawing board, fixing. For instance, I had the check availability workflow. Dude, that shit took me so fucking long, and I got it to like work with my own thing, and then it was taking like fucking 50 seconds to a minute 30 to complete, and that's just not acceptable. So I actually ended up getting it down to, I think, 13 seconds. So it shit's fucking quick now. It's a little bit different than what I thought it was going to be. We'll see how it plays out. Right now it works fine, but everything works. I even had the HVAC guy call today, and because I cleared out the entire calendar and it couldn't find any other events in the calendar, it like froze or like stopped during the check availability, which fucking, I'm like, dude, of course it did. So then I had to do it. So it always outputs an item. So that keeps doing the, you know, if there's no events, it keeps going through the workflow, but that's besides the point. This is very much version 1. I'm not saying it's all perfect. It's honestly not perfect at all. But I've spent about 91 hours on this system. So I'm excited to show everybody and at least just explain my logic and everything. And if somebody sees something that I don't, then I would love for them to tell me. So in the comments below, if you guys see anything in the system where you're like, hey, what about this? Or hey, what about that? Or maybe you could do this, or maybe you could do that, or whatnot. Just let me know in the comments, and I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. But without further ado, I need to get to doing. So I'm gonna start recording. I will see you guys in a bit, or you guys will see what I've done, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Peace. Enjoy that shit. All right. Hi guys, my name's Chad. I'm the owner and founder of Fluxently AI Solutions. And today I'm presenting to you guys my version 1 of the HVAC AI receptionist. And this is going to be the first video of the breakdown series. So currently we are at here. So we're going to do a visual overview, just explaining what the system is and how it works. And then we're going to dive deeper into the actual automation itself and the system itself. So this first video will be the visual overview. Then we'll do the retail AI voice agent face breakdown and basically how it handles conversations. Then we're going to go into the brain system, which is going to be the logic, decision making, and workflow control, which is going to be consisting of our dynamic availability checks, the calendar management, and the callback request handling systems. Then we also have the drive time estimation and buffering, which is going to basically be the drive time estimation and buffering inside of the calendar. Then we also have the data storage and CRM integration, which is considered the spine. It sends it to make.com, which syncs it with the CRM. And then all the database stuff. Then we're going to go through a live demonstration, and I'm going to walk you through the entire system at once, and we're just going to do a live demo call. So these are all going to be separate videos. So this is going to be day 1. So stay tuned for the next 8 days. We're going to be posting a video every other day. And yeah, so just stay tuned. Connect with me on LinkedIn if you find this stuff interesting. It's only going to get better from here. This is my first version. But yeah, it's already launched. It's out there, and it's already getting called. All right, so let's just take a look at our visual real quick. We'll start with the entire system. So this is the entire system, right? So we can divide the system up into a couple different parts. We have the face, the brain, and the spine are the 3 ways I like to describe the different parts of the system. Now, if we start on our left here, let me zoom in. So initially, obviously, we get a phone call, right? So we get an inbound phone call, which is then forwarded to our face, which is our AI voice agent. Now, this retail AI voice agent handles the calls through the phone numbers it's linked to. It collects the customer information like their name, contact details, service address, what's going on, all that stuff. It's collecting all the information on the customer. Then it's basically guiding the conversation naturally through a pre-designed track. So it has a set goal that it's working towards, which is obviously getting a job booked. And then it uses tools or functions to basically call on our brain to operate and take data that we're getting in the conversation and then being able to manipulate that data and then return data to the face, which is pretty cool. So this face agent also has a function where it can transfer, it's called a warm transfer to your staff. Essentially what that does is it calls your staff when they pick up. It gives them like a quick 10 to 20 second rundown of what's going on. And then it transfers the caller to the staff, which is nice because it's not just pick up like, hey, what's going on? Like you already know what's going on because the agent tells you. Now, so what I mean by the face though, essentially, if we just narrow it down or simplify it, the face is the actual voice agent that you're talking to on the phone. It doesn't have any other really data attached to it, maybe a little bit of a knowledge base. We do know that the more knowledge you give it, like the more of a knowledge base it has, the higher the latency and the higher the token cost, which just overall slow down the agent and make it seem more robotic. So we want to decrease that as much as possible. The way we do that is I like to put my knowledge bases inside the prompt, which we'll walk through in the next video. But essentially you put the knowledge bases inside the prompt and you give it very minimal knowledge. From the research I've done when it comes to HVAC companies or plumbing companies and like these receptionists, you don't really want to be diagnosing on the phone. Like that's the tech's job to do when they get to the job site. Getting them off of price and just focusing on solving the problem, really like understanding the problem, making them feel heard, listening to them, and then collecting those details and offering even the price later in the conversation, saying, hey, it's $140. Do you want me to book that in for you? Things like that. But yeah, that's a whole different thing. We'll get into that next time. But essentially what I'm trying to say is that most of the data that it's getting, like the dynamic variables of availability and all that stuff, are coming from the brain, which has access to the calendar and everything like that. So essentially the brain, it's inside of NNN. NNN is just one of my favorite workflow softwares to use. Now make.com is relatively similar. I like make.com as well. I think that they're good in different senses. Personally, for CRM integration, it just has a lot more native functions and it's really easy to just map data throughout. But when it comes to AI agents or anything like that, I really do like NNN, especially with HTTP requests. That's just my opinion. That's just preference. Now, Basically, so it comes to this brain, right? It's going to be calling back and forth. It's going to be extracting key details from the call transcript. It's going to be formatting data into a structured output for processing. It sends the data to the spine for integration, processes tool call webhook data to gather required calendar information, retrieves calendar data, and sends it back to the face. Factors in drive time by mapping technician origin and destination, calculating travel time duration, adjusting appointment availability to ensure on-time or early arrival. And we'll get into that when I dive deeper into the system inside the brain, where basically it calculates the driving time based on where the tech is coming from, where the tech is going, as well as the arrival time. So it literally calculates like according to traffic time. What I'm saying though is that this agent is going to be calling on tools that are inside the brain. The brain is going to be processing that information, manipulating that data, and sending it back to the face for it to reiterate to the client. It sends messages to the staff. That could be callback requests, but also it's always like the call summaries. I like to have messages pop up on my phone as the person that built it. I always want to know when somebody's calling my system and what's going on with that. So I have the messages also on my phone, but basically they just text me like a call summary, who called, what were they calling for, what kind of happened during that conversation. And then if they did book a call, it'll go to a different messaging system where it says somebody booked a call. So I have a booked call. I have just a call summary, which means that they did not book. And then I have a callback request. So there's 3 different kind of Telegram bots that I'm calling on that do different things, which is pretty cool. It keeps everything nice and organized. And I don't use Telegram for anything else other than AI automation. So now when it comes to the Make.com CRM integration, this is what I call the spine. And it connects to the brain. So the brain is basically taking this data from the transcript and it's formatting it. And then it's sending that formatted data to Make.com. And then Make.com is taking that data and it's plugging it into the CRM in the way that it needs to. What I like about that is with Make.com as well, if it errors, it stops the workflow. Like it'll turn it off and it'll notify you, which I really, rather than just running through it and then it's been airing this whole time and it's been on and you just didn't know. And that's really important when it comes to CRM integration. So that's what I really like about it. I integrated with Jobber for this project. It did not have native integration, so I used Start Integrate, I believe. But that's just like an add-on that you would add on to Make.com, and it made it super easy. And like I said, the visualization of being able to map data. I try to use Zapier. I'm not very familiar with Zapier. I wasn't a big fan of it. I felt like it was extremely like, you have to do it this way, and I just didn't like that. We used Make.com for this, but it was really good. Or it works really well. Now, like I said, this can also warm transfer to staff. If the caller wants to talk to a human, they say they want to talk to a human. If anything errors in the system where it can't book properly, it can't check availability properly, anything like that, it's going to just automatically warm transfer to your staff. And if nobody picks up, it's going to send that callback request to your staff immediately. Now, coming soon, I'm just kind of waiting on getting these results, these initial results in. And once I get a substantial amount of data, I think it's very important to package that into a data dashboard so that you can see what's going on with your system and basically just see what is this AI agent doing for your business, right? So essentially what that's going to do is these are the key metrics that I want to track: the total calls, the calls by hour or day, so we know what peak times we're dealing with, when are people calling, the call duration. That's going to be a little bit for me, as this costs money to run, but also for you to understand how long these phone calls are lasting on average. The conversion rate, which is extremely important. How many calls are we getting until we get a booked job? And then what kind of jobs are we actually getting? Are these more repair? Are they more maintenance? Are they new installs? Do they just want an estimate? What are these bookings? What are these job types? And we can see where the trends go from there. Transferring to rate to human. How many times is this agent either airing, or how many times is somebody asking for a human? Those are really good metrics to know as well. The revenue from booked calls. So all the booked calls that this agent is booking for you, how much revenue is that producing you? And then the average revenue per booked job. So we would just take the booked jobs, the value, the total revenue from the booked jobs divided by the booked jobs, and then we would get our average revenue. And then the automated generated call summaries, which is just going to be like a list of call summaries as well on the dashboard, which I think is just pretty cool. And then the extraction of key entities, like I said, more so even like location. I wouldn't say like names and stuff. You can obviously, if you have reoccurring clients, like that's totally fine, and you can do stuff like that. But I think that the best thing for key entities would be what towns are calling us the most? Where are these customers at? Am I getting more calls in this area? And maybe we should target ads in that area more. Just things like that. So we just know where we're getting the calls from. Now that's coming soon. I'm waiting more on like that first substantial amount of data to come in, and then I'm going to be building that for my client, as well as the SMS text. So essentially, rather than just calling, it's going to be able to, if somebody texts the phone number as well, the agent will be able to have basically the same conversation with them on text, which going along with that would be SMS text confirmations, SMS, hey, your tech is on the way, SMS, hey, rate your experience with us on a scale of 1 to 5. If it's at 4, then you ask for a review. Things like that will be coming soon as well. But like I said, this is very much version 1. I think it's a pretty neat little system. It took me about 91 hours to build. I've dumped a very good amount of time into it. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident about it. I think that there's obviously things that are going to have to be fixed and things that I'm going to have to adjust as I go. But overall, very confident about the system. And yeah, that's basically the general overview. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me via LinkedIn, comment on this video, reach out to me via email. My email is chad.allen, ALAN, at fluxently.com, FLUXENTLY. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me on any channel. I'm always available to answer any of you guys' questions. But yeah, this is essentially just a system. So we have 3 different parts. We have the face, the brain, and the spine. And those are the things that you have to remember for the next upcoming videos. So I will see you guys in the next video where we cover our retail AI voice agent and kind of that script that it follows. All right. So as I mentioned before, there's 3 different parts of our brain inside of NNN that is communicating information to our face. So we're going to dive into this first part. We're going to go into the find availability. Second, we'll probably go into the callback request. And then third, we will go into the calendar agent. So first things first, we have the find availability tool. And essentially, guys, this is triggered when the agent needs to check calendar availability. It pulls multiple available time slots, confirms the technician can realistically arrive on time, considers the technician's starting location, accounts for the expected arrival time, and factors in traffic conditions at the scheduled time of arrival. The way I did it is I put it into a sub workflow. When you put things into a sub workflow, it tends to run a little bit smoother and a little bit quicker. And when I initially built this system, it took about 50 to a minute 30, 50 seconds to a minute 30 to execute, which when somebody's waiting on the phone for check availability, like for you to check availability and they're waiting for a minute, doesn't work. I ended up getting the system down to 15 seconds. So in 15 seconds, it executes all this. And the way I did that was I used Claude to essentially vibe code separate function nodes that essentially like filter out these slots. So let's just start at the beginning and let's just work our way through it. So this LLM node basically extracts 15 slots from like now into the future, right? So it's looking for instance, with this company, it's like Monday through Friday, we only have 1 slot available because we only have 1 tech. So 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. is the only slot that's available. So it'll pick up on all those slots if it's 3 days out. And then for Saturday, it does everything from, so we start at 7 a.m. and we end up 7 p.m. So it will grab 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., then 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. and then 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and so on and so forth, all the way up until the 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And that allows us to grab 15 slots of the nearest times. Now, these aren't necessarily always available times. So that's what this is doing. So this is taking it is getting the range of the max and the min of the 15 slots, and it's looking to gather all the calendar events in the calendar, and then it's filtering all the calendar conflicts. So basically, if there's already an event scheduled from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., it disqualifies that slot out. And then we are splitting out all of those slots into separate items for batching. So when we batch process, essentially we run that many items at once through our Google Routes API, which just allows it to Basically, like why my previous node took so long was first I had two OpenAI LLMs in the very beginning that were calling on Google Calendar functions or tools, but now I don't. But also, I was using a loop function, which was just really complicated and it was just taking way too long. So it's going to prepare all of our stuff for parallel processing, and then it's going to process all this information through our Google Routes API and essentially maps the data that it gathers to our slots. So what that looks like is, let's say for instance, and for quick, easy math, it says it's going to take 600 seconds to get to the next appointment, right? Which is 10 minutes. Okay. So 10 minutes to get to the next appointment. It's essentially taking that 10 minutes, subtracting that from the start time. So it's going to be, if the start time's at 7 a.m., that means it's going for 6:50 a.m. because that's when the tech has to leave, and then it's checking to make sure that that spot is actually available and doesn't conflict with anything else. So that's where it does it here. It's verifying the available slots. So it's going to go through, like I said, and basically individually check availability for all the slots with the driving time. Then it's going to kind of configure, basically edit the fields here, which basically is just editing that start time back to its initial start time. And then it's going through this if true or false function, if the location, or if it is available, if the time is available, then it goes true and it aggregates into a single list where we sort it, and then it will be from top to bottom. But essentially, this was a really complex system to figure out and run. But essentially, I vibe coded this all with Claude, and you guys can see it flows pretty quick. It jumps through these function nodes like nobody's business. So when we look at this, today is Thursday the 25th at 1:31 p.m. So it's giving 3 available slots to offer the prospect. Essentially, it's offering a time for 5 p.m. tomorrow, which is accurate. That's good. Saturday for Saturday morning at 7 a.m. and for Saturday morning at 8 a.m. So those are the first 3 available times. As you can see, we have a whole list here, and it's cutting out to Sunday. We are off. We don't offer any times on Sunday, and so it didn't offer any times on Sunday. It offered all the times on Saturday, and then we have Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 5 p.m. Like I said, pretty cool system. You saw how quick it runs. Essentially, like this takes in the transcript. I can show you guys real quick. It takes in the transcript. So this is where you would constrain your business hours right here and the hard constraints. And essentially, it's just taking the current time and the transcript, and it's just extracting essentially when that caller wants to check the calendar or when they want you out there. But if there's no, like the caller doesn't say anything, he doesn't give you a specified time or day, then it's essentially just going to always check out 3-ish days out. And if it's on Sunday, then it'll check before. So for instance, today's Thursday, 3 days from now is Sunday. So it's going to give me the Friday and Saturday availabilities instead, just because giving that Monday is just a little too far out there, especially for an HVAC company like this. They want it done relatively soon. But I've debated doing the retail AI agent in more available times, maybe 5. Maybe in the future I'll do that, but I think 3 is a good one for now. But as you guys can see, 15 of these items were true, and so we're looking good here. Now, the only concern I would ever have with this type of system is if we were like absolutely booked out. But even if we're absolutely booked out and they all come back unavailable, it's just going to error, and then the retail AI agent's going to say there's no availability, and then essentially prompt the user to ask for a different day. And when that person gives a different day, it'll be able to pull different availability. And then you just run through it again, and you should be good to go. But also, if the check availability errors, we're also able to just transfer to a human and have the human look at the calendar and decide if they can fit them in. But yeah, no, essentially that's that. So this little short workflow is actually like this. And once you put things in a sub workflow, they just tend to run a little bit smoother. So pretty simple system, not really simple. This part of it probably took me like, it probably took me like 20 hours, just this one. Because it took me 10 hours just to build the initial one, and then I had a vibe code with Claude.
But yeah, that's that, guys. That just really allows us to make sure that our tech can always get to the job. It's subtracting the time that it's going to take for our tech to get the job, as well as it's getting origin points. So I forgot to mention that actually here. It's essentially getting origin points as well. So let's say we have a time that's already booked from, let's say 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. And then somebody wants to book in for 10 a.m. Like now it's going to take that 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. as the origin, and it's going to be able to calculate that distance that's going to take from the origin to there, and then that's what it's running off of here. So it's like, if let's say we have that 10 a.m. slot, but it's going to take the tech an hour and a half to get to this new appointment, it's going to mark that as false, and then it's going to give the 11 a.m. time or even the noon time instead. And yeah, that's basically the system. It's all about just making sure that our tech can get there on time, and that's the most important thing. Callback requests. So essentially, this is triggered when the agent attempts to transfer a call, but no staff member can answer. Sends a callback request message to staff. Message includes the caller's needs, a description of the request, and the caller's phone number for the staff to essentially call the user back. Now, what this does, this is an LLM node that takes in the transcript and kind of deciphers, did this person give a different phone number? If they did, then it'll use that phone number and it will update the phone number in the Google Sheets. And if not, it's just going to get the phone number from the Google Sheets. We'll go over this in the data section of it, but when the call starts, we automatically collect the user's number. So after it does those two things, essentially what it's doing with the transcript is checking for a number and summarizing the call. And once it does those two things, we input them into our text, and that sends a text via Telegram on our phone underneath the callback bot. So that is a separate bot. So if you get any notifications from that bot specifically, those are very important. So I always recommend my clients keep that one as the one that gives notifications. But yeah, and then essentially once that's done successfully, it returns the data to the webhook so that our agent knows, hey, I sent the callback request. You'll be receiving a call shortly. But yeah, this one, literally so simple. This took me 10 minutes to build. This is nothing compared to the fine availability. This is absolutely nothing. Quick one, simple, but very useful, especially just because a lot of HVAC techs and people that are in these industries, they get texts all day. They're just getting texts all day. So Telegram really allows us to narrow that down. First of all, it's free. Okay, it's free. Second of all, it just allows us to have that one channel that we're paying attention to get these very important notifications. This is the calendar agent portion of the brain. And what this does is it updates the calendar as needed. So this is able to book new appointments, reschedule existing appointments, and it can also cancel appointments. The way that this works, initially I had the entire brain system like this, but I decided to go a little bit more of the complex route for the check availability. But you can have this agent essentially do everything like this. Like I used to have the callback request in here as well, and it worked fine. But the thing is about agents is like you don't want to load them with too much. The more simple any workflow or agent can be, the better. And the reason I segmented this off into a reschedule agent as well is just so that 3 of these tools are going to be under this, which are all entailed with the same thing. And this agent's not handling 4 different tools. Instead, it's really just handling that booking and that reschedule agent. So in here, at first I had a system and a user prompt, but I decided just to go the user prompt route. If it can work off of a simpler prompt, have it work off the simpler prompt. What I'm feeding into it is essentially the transcript, the time, and the current node. The transcript is basically just communicating data of what's going on in the conversation, what's this person trying to do, but also that current node is how it's routing its tools. So it's a current node logic. When you have this webhook come in, it'll have the current node. And then also I have this time just so that it's booking in the future, in the near future, not like in the past or anything like that. I've had it in the past where when you don't give the LLM the now time, it goes to 2024. It usually defaults to June of 2024. I don't know why, but it does. But essentially, this webhook is triggered, comes to the calendar agent. The calendar agent decides, okay, what current node are we on? What is this person trying to do? Okay. If it is get event, reschedule, or cancel, it's going to go to the reschedule agent. If it's book, it's going to go to the book agent. And essentially, it'll just book out the time if it's just looking to book. And if it's looking to get an event, it will use the get event tool, which returns the user's event, and then we'll respond with that according data. And the agent will be able to say, hey, so-and-so, I found your event for X day at this time. What day would you like to reschedule it to? Or are you sure you would like to cancel? And then what it does when it comes back, it always uses this get tool first to get the event ID. And then it uses that event ID to either reschedule that event or to delete that event based on the transcript and what the user is trying to do. So this one, relatively simple. Once again, I decided to split this brain up into multiple things because I was trying to do essentially all this with just this. And that just was a whole thing. And I was not having it. So I decided, especially with this tool, checking the drive time, making API calls, all that fun stuff, I decided to just do that in its own little workflow, which has turned out well. And yeah, so relatively simple. Not anything too crazy. If you're doing this, for instance, with a company like a med spa, let's say it like this. Pretty much one thing can happen. Like they're just calling to either, or just two things. It's like they're calling to ask a question or they're calling to book in because it's a consumer to business. Like they're coming to a brick and mortar location. This would be a fantastic way of just doing the brain. You wouldn't even need the other stuff. You can pretty much just do it with one agent that might have two agent tools and maybe one or two tools on the side for like a med spa, barber shop, hair salon, even like chiropractors, dentists, gyms, anything like that. I would really recommend to use something like this. But just because we're using so many dynamic variables, I decided to go the bigger route. But essentially, this is the brain of the agent. This is all the tools that this agent is calling on and manipulating data and getting data back sent to it. Yeah, that's the brain. And up next, we're just going to look at the driving time block function, which is essentially after a call. This is the drive time manager. So this is executed when a calendar event is created, updated, or deleted. So this is a custom trigger. I actually coded it on Google Cloud Console, and I found this really neat video that was like, for me, it was weird, but essentially this gentleman walked me through how to build this calendar trigger in NNN, the Google Calendar triggers in intervals, and then it like compares to like past data. So it's okay, is there a new event? And then it updates, and I didn't like that. So this updates immediately, which is awesome. So this is going to be our routing, basically based on what happens in the calendar. So if an event is updated, it's going to basically delete that old driving time because now there's just driving time with no calendar underneath. So it's going to delete that old buffer, and then it's going to update that in the database. It's going to delete that old task ID so it doesn't get used again because it's not existing anymore because we deleted it. Same thing if a task gets deleted or an event gets deleted, gets canceled, it's going to automatically delete that buffer that was before that event. Then it updates in the database. And then it filters out the deleted. So the deletion ends here. If it's updated, it keeps going, right? So then it gets that created event or that updated event, and it makes sure that the location is true. Now, this is just to filter out the driving time buffer. So when we create an event and we create that driving time buffer, I don't include the location in there. It's just a time block. It's not even in Jobber or anything like that. It's only in the Google Calendar as a way of blocking that time out so the AI agent knows it can't use that time, if that makes sense. So if the location is true, it'll keep going. If it's not true, it's going to get stuck here and it's just going to end. And basically that just allows us to create and delete events that don't have locations, for instance, the driving time buffers, and they're going to stop here. They're not going to get past here. So only the events that have locations, which are booked by our prospects, will move on. So after it moves on, it is going to search the calendar for nearby events to determine the origin point, and then it's going to fall back to the default origin if no location is found. So here it gets events. If it finds events and the location is true, it formats the origin and then goes to the routes API. Opposite thing's true, it's false. They don't find a location origin, it defaults to the default origin and then uses the routes API. And then this routes API obviously calculates the driving time based on the start time, the origin, and the destination. and that includes the traffic, which is awesome. Then it's going to basically calculate the driving time based on the travel duration and the target arrival. So what that means is the driving start time is obviously how long it takes minus the start time of the actual event, right? And then it creates a companion drive time event in the calendar. So it creates that drive time buffer right before that calendar event and records relevant IDs and everything like that in the database. And one thing that I forgot to mention in this right here is I've actually designed it so it's the traffic time is based on the time that the person's supposed to arrive, right? But I've set that back when it books that drive time in. And so when it prompts the tech that, hey, you got to leave now, it's actually the tech is going to arrive 10 minutes early. 10 minutes early is always a good rule of thumb, just in case if anything happens, whatever. You're always going to be on time, or at least you're 10 minutes early. Rather be early than late. So that's just a neat little thing I thought of when I was making this, and I thought that was a good logic point to make sure that the text or whoever is going somewhere is going to be there early and not late. Early is always better than late, especially with things like this. Now, we're going to check for events after a new event. So what this is, it usually will end here, right? Usually it will end here. However, it's going to check for about 2 to 3 hours after this event and make sure it's not pulling in any other driving time where our tech is going to be going there. Because then if there's an event afterwards with the driving time, it's going to change the origin and therefore it's going to change the duration of the drive. So this is basically searching for a event after the event. If it turns false, it stops the flow. So right here, false, stops here. But if it's true and we find an event like a drive time buffer or anything like that, then we're going to format this new data, throw it back into the routes API, calculate a new drive time based on the new origin. So this is formatting the new origin, and then it's going to calculate the new drive time, and then it's going to get the old drive time buffer based on the event ID of what it got from here. It's going to get that old buffer time, delete the old buffer time, and then block a new one and update it within the sheet, which I thought was just a cool little function right here because things do change, especially if we're changing the origin point, it's going to change the duration of the drive. And I just thought it was extremely important to have those things, because what if the drive changed by 30 minutes and then the time's in, this is a lot longer of a drive. Yeah, because the origin point changed. So that was just a neat little feature I added into this. But overall, this system was relatively complex. The trigger honestly took me a while. If I remember correctly, when I built this system, I thought the API request was going to be difficult with the Google Routes API. And that ended up actually being relatively easy. What ended up taking a while was this trigger, and it was still very straightforward. But I think it's October 15th I have to update this because I used Python 3.9, and I think that they're not going to support Python 3.9. So I'm going to have to go back through there and low-key figure that out by myself a little bit. But I do have that guy's guide, but that's gonna be an outdated guide now. So then we're gonna have to keep iterating and using Claude and using GPT to update those things and be able to use the next. I'm not sure if it's Python. I don't know what Python the next version that they're gonna be requiring for me to use, but it's not gonna be 3.9. But this system, pretty cool. Yeah, this is just basically keeping our calendar organized. Like I said, this isn't gonna be popping up in Jopper or anything like that. In any CRM is what I mean. But it will be popping up on the Google Calendar and basically just allowing our agent to have that knowledge of, okay, our tech has a 30-minute drive, our tech has this, our tech has that. And it just allows us to block that time so the agent doesn't mess up and offer that time like it's available when it's not. This is the data storage and CRM formatting system. So this is triggered at the start of a call and when the call ends. It routes to the appropriate part of the workflow according to if it's the start versus the end. So if the call just started, it's going to go down here where it's going to format the information that I need. The way that the numbers get imported are with that +1. I don't like that personally because it messes with the Google Sheets. It always makes it an equation and then it shows error and it just doesn't look right. So I just get rid of that and output it like that into a 10-digit rather than an 11-digit phone number. Then I always have these wait nodes because with the Google Sheets API, you can't call it too many times in a row or else it'll error. So that's just one thing I've learned using this tool, just to always put like a 3-second buffer. And these things are not being routed to the face, so it doesn't need to be like quick. This can take as long as it wants. So what this does is it logs the call ID, the inbound number, and the call start time immediately in here. And then if the call ends, or when the call ends, it goes here and it's going to summarize the transcript. It's going to extract all this data and format it all accordingly to how we need it. There's a lot here. Then we route it here. Did the number change? So we asked the caller, hey, is the number you called from a good number to get back to you? If they say no and they change the number, it's going to go down here and it's going to update the number in here with all the other information. If the number's not changed, it's just not going to update that number and it's going to just input the same amount of information that's inputting here. Now, did this caller book? Did they book a service? If they didn't, it's going to go down here where it's going to format some data and send it to our summary bot. And essentially that bot is just there to make sure that something didn't go wrong or anything like that. I get all those notifications. Those are things that I have to see on my phone when I get calls or when my systems get calls, just so I know that it's functioning properly or what happened, why didn't they convert, all that's good stuff. But if the prospect did convert and they did go and they booked a service, it's going to come up here. It's going to get the rest of the call data that it needs. There's a lot of data that it's getting. It's going to format that to send to make.com, as well as text our booked bot in Telegram, which says, hey, you got a booking. It's going to give the summary, the type of service that they booked, their street address, basically where they're at, a summary, and their number as well, just in case. And then it's going to send all that data to make.com. So we're formatting all the data in here, and then we're sending that to make.com right here. Now I have this deactivated for right now. This is my make.com Jobber integration. Essentially, this is just using these Jobber nodes from Star Integrate, as well as these Google Sheets functions where they basically are storing job IDs, task IDs, all that stuff. It's just logging all this Jobber information for polling later, which is what it's doing here and here. So all at the end of each of these, it updates the row. But essentially, if we come down here, this is a search clients. Clients is false. So this is a new client calling in. It's going to create that new client profile. It's going to get their property, create a job, create a task, and append that to a row. Now, this is a returning caller is found up here, get the job ID. If there is no job ID, therefore the client had a job in the past that closed and we already did work for them before, it's going to search for their property in their client account, create a job, create a task, update that to a row. Now, if the client is calling to cancel, it's going to go straight. It's going to close that job that we have open for them. It's going to get that task ID. It's going to delete that task, and then it's going to update that task ID, and it's going to delete that. This was a big thing because the only way you can delete a task is with the task ID, and the only way you can get a task, get the task information is if you have a task ID. So this was a whole thing I had to figure out, but I decided to just go this route. And then if they call to reschedule, they're going to get the task ID, they're going to delete a task, and then create a task. Therefore, we don't have to update a job. We don't have to do any of that. And that's just with Jobber. Other CRMs are different, but this is all with just Jobber. But essentially, very simple. So we have a new client, we have an existing client, new job, we have a cancel, and we have a reschedule. And yeah, very simple. Like I said, very proud of this one. I tried to do it with Zapier because Zapier had native functions with Jobber and make.com didn't. But I decided to just do this route. It was an extra subscription on my part for Star Integrate, but I think it's worth it, especially in the long run. So overall, very happy with this system. This was one of those things that I love to do. I love data manipulation and keeping track of things like this. It's fun to me. But yeah. So this is all just keeping the data in the spreadsheet. This is actually the spreadsheet if you guys want to see it. So we have our call data, we have our drive data, and then we have our Jobber data. So this is basically from this right here. This Jobber data is from here. And then the drive data is from that drive time manager. That's where it stores all this information. At the time of recording all these walkthroughs and breakdowns, I decided to review the retail AI flow with the live demo. I just felt like it would make the most sense, as well as it's just a lot to look at here. So I just figured that it would be better just to do it like this. Now, one thing I would like to preface this with is that if anything in this system is going to change, it's going to be this. Basically, while we get these transcripts in of these callers, depending on how they're converting and everything like that, this is the thing that the prospects are always going to be communicating with. They don't know about anything on the back end. So this is going to be the most important thing that also will be changing quite a bit. I'm already in the process of doing research in the HVAC industry and what are the highest converting ways that you can conduct inbound lead calling you, and already getting those scripts together and presenting that to my client to integrate into this system. This is more of like the script that she wanted to follow, which is totally fine by me, but I think that there are better ways of doing it. Now, one thing I wanted to say too is that I used a conversational workflow. Now, there are plenty of ways that you can go about this. However, because there's so many reasons that somebody can be reaching out for an HVAC, I felt like being able to really conduct and guide the user through a predetermined conversation was the best way to go. You're going to, of course, use a multi-prompt or a single prompt, especially if you're in an industry like a med spa or a barbershop or anything like that, where a consumer is coming to you and they're really only inquiring about one or two services. That one, I would go for a multi-prompt or a single prompt. But because if they can be inquiring about anything, I like the conversational workflows for things like this. Now, another thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we get into this, the latency and the tokens. When you build things like this, the latency and tokens are very crucial. Anything that's over 2,000 tokens or anything that's over 1,000 latency on average is going to just be super slow and super robotic. So when I'm looking at latency and tokens, always below 2,000, around 1,000 for latency. And one way that I see a lot of people like incorporate knowledge bases is they upload these long documents into the knowledge base down here. And one thing I have to say to that is I prefer to just put the knowledge base into that certain prompt or that certain node that needs that knowledge base. And even just putting it in the prompt in general for a single prompt or a multi-prompt just really helps not drive that latency up and still having that agent be able to pull that knowledge. So this is the welcome note. This is what the caller is greeted with. And there are 4 reasons or 4 buckets that we're grouping the caller into. So the caller is either going to be requesting a repair or maintenance, wants to reschedule or cancel, is inquiring for a new installation or a replacement unit, or is calling about billing, invoicing, or an existing account. Now, just for the sake of walking you through this, I'm not going to walk through all of these. I'm just going to walk through the requested a repair maintenance. So when they say, hey, something's broken, I need repair on this, I need a repair on that, I need maintenance on this, it's going to ask them if this is an emergency. And if they say, yes, this is an emergency, it's going to ask them if they're okay with the emergency premium. If they say that they're okay with the emergency premium, then it's going to forward the call to one of our staff. If they are not okay with that, it's just going to continue down the normal traditional path. And we're going to get into that right now. So what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to call the agent, give you guys a live demo. I'm going to make up a fake name, and I am going to give it a real address that is located in Austin, Texas. That's where this company is located, because I need to make sure that the driving time function actually has a valid address that it can use. Yeah. So essentially, let's just get into it. And once again, or let me just reiterate on this. If it is an emergency and it transfers the call, it's going to try to transfer it to our admin staff, and then it's going to try to transfer it to our tech. And if neither of them answer, it's going to go down this path, and it's basically going to make a callback request and then tell them that somebody will be in touch with them soon, and then end the call. So that's just one thing I wanted to touch on real quick, and let's just get into the live demo.
Hi, this is Alex with ABBA HVAC on a recorded line. How can I help you today?
Hey, Alex, I was just calling. My AC is broken. I wanted to see how fast somebody can get out here to help me out.
Do you need immediate assistance with this problem?
Yes.
We can have a tech out quickly. Would you be fine with the emergency premium that applies?
How much is that?
The emergency diagnostic fee is $280. It's credited toward any repair if done the same visit or within 7 days. So would you be okay with that premium to get a tech out quickly?
No, I don't want to pay that much.
No problem at all. We can schedule you for a standard repair visit instead. I'm sorry your AC is acting up. We'll get you taken care of. To get you to the right technician, can you tell me a little more about what's going on with your system today?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I have an older unit, and sometimes it turns off, but usually I can go out there and manually reset it. And today it just won't even turn on, and my house is getting hot.
Thanks for explaining that. So, your older AC unit usually resets, but today it just won't turn on at all, and the house is getting warm. Is that right?
Yes.
Thanks for sharing all that. We'll get you set up for a standard repair visit. What's your first name, please?
My first name is Jackie,
Awesome. Thank you, Jackie. And what's your last name, please?
Chan.
Thank you, Jackie. What's the service address, starting with the street?
It's going to be 3220 Cherry Lane,
Thank you, Jackie. And what city or town are you in?
Austin.
Just to confirm, that's 3220 Cherry Lane in Austin. Is that right?
Yes.
Thanks, Jackie. Is the number you're calling from the best number to reach you?
No, the best number will be 111-222-4455.
Thanks, Jackie. Just to clarify, your number is 111-222-4455. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, let me take a moment to see which direction our tech will be coming from and make sure we can realistically get them to you on time. Sometimes it takes me a few seconds to load the schedule, so I appreciate you hanging in there with me. Just one moment while I take a look. All right, Jackie, we have 5 p.m. on Friday the 26th, or 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. on Saturday the 27th. Do any of those times work for you?
Yeah, the 5 p.m. on the 26th works for me.
Perfect. I'm submitting the booking request right now. Just filling in the notes so everything's saved correctly. One moment while the system processes. This will just take a few seconds. Thanks, Jackie. Your service is scheduled for Friday the 26th, starting at 5 p.m. Is there anything else I can help you with today?
Nope, that'll be it.
Thanks for calling Ava HVAC. You're booked for a repair on Friday, September 26th at 5 p.m. Technician will diagnose and review options before any work begins. We'll send a confirmation. If you need to change anything, just call or text us. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thank you. You too. And she ends up the call. So that's it. I think that there's definitely improvements to be done on this part of it all, to be honest. I think that this is going to be one of the most important things. One thing I just wanted to show you guys real quick is that you guys can't see this, but I did get a notification. I got a message saying that Jackie Chan called to report that their older AC unit, which usually can be manually reset, would not turn on today, causing the house to get warm. And I was booked for Friday the 26th at 5 p.m. with my phone number and address. Now, if we take a look here in our calendar, we have the driving time as well as all the details. So we have the summary, Jackie Chan at the address, and what kind of job is it, as well as the driving time buffer between. Like I said, it's at 450, which is good. And then if we take a look at our database, we have our caller information here. Booked true. We have the drive data here, and then jobber data is empty because we don't have jobber activated right now. But so yeah, essentially that is the system, guys. That is the idea. Right now, we are currently in the process. It is live right now. We have not gotten any calls as of today, but I just launched it yesterday. So we are just waiting on our first couple of calls, and we will see how they go, and we will adjust accordingly. But like I said, I'm already researching and coming up with scripts that I think are going to be a little bit better than this one. So I'm already looking to revamp this part of the system, which is extremely important. So I will make more updates about that as I go. I'm not going to give away the sauce right away, but yeah, no, this is it's a very complex system, but it does its job and it's pretty sweet. So if you own an HVAC company, a plumbing company, any company that drives out to the customer to service them, and you want something like this for your business, let me know. I would love to help you out. Right now I am doing a pilot program, so it will be cheaper than what it will be in the future. So right now is the time to do it. And I would love to help you out and work on this for you. I love doing this. And if you are a business that customers come to you, you have a brick and mortar location and you rely on inbound calls to book appointments, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or anything with questions. If you want to see if this could work for you, if this could come into your business, or if you're curious about how any other tasks that are just monotonous and see if they can be automated to save you time, make you more money, or increase your focus, let me know. And I will be on LinkedIn, or you can email me it'll be chad.allen@fluxently.com. And that will be at the bottom of the screen right there. All right, guys, thank you for coming to my breakdown. I appreciate it. I spent a long time building this. I've never spent so much time on a singular project before. 91 hours. Very proud of myself. Shout out to Alex Ramosi. I know you guys can see that. Alex Ramosi's the GOAT. If you guys haven't gotten his Muddy Models book, feel free to message me about that as well, and I will send you a copy. I got the playbooks, so I have 199 of these suckers to give out. So if you want a free copy other than shipping, let me know, and I will send you that. Other than that, peace out, guys. Thank you so much.